Community Advisory Board, known as CAB. We are a board established by the Community Corrections Partnership, CCP. We'll first start off with introductions. Gariana, kindly call the roll in order to establish quorum.
Absolutely. Nicole Green.
Aye.
Ozzy Carter.
Present.
Brenda Lee.
Present.
Raina Moore. Latanya Thompson. Reverend Julius Van Hook. It's great to see you. Renee Hurley.
Present.
Jeffrey Robinson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 members present. Quorum is established.
Thank you so much, Gariana. And just to indulge us, we will go back around the room and ask each member to introduce themselves, the county that they represent, and how long they've been a member of CAB. I'll start with myself. I'm Ozzy Carter. I represent East County from Pittsburgh, and this is my 4th year on CAB.
My name is Nicole Green. I represent East County, and this is my 4th year on CAB.
I'm Brenda Lee. This is my 2nd year, West County, Richmond, California.
I'm Jeffrey Robinson, representing Central County.
Renee Hurley, and I represent West County. This is my 1st year on CAB.
Latanya Thompson, West County, and this is my 2nd year.
Reverend Julius Van Hook, West County, and this is my 3rd year.
Thank you. Our next introductions will be our staff members, and then following that, our county agents present.
Good morning, everyone. This is Grace Guillory here with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Good morning, Gariana Youngblood, also here with the Office of Reentry and Justice.
Michelle Elizondo, Program Coordinator, Office of Reentry and Justice.
Well, I'll jump in. This is Jill Ray with the Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Hi guys, I'm Ashley Goddard. I'm with the Office of Supervisor Burgess here in District 3.
Any other members of the community that would like to introduce themselves on Zoom?
Good morning, Janet Evans, Game Plan for Success, Office of Education.
Good morning, Rupel Stroud, Contra Costa County Office of Education, Contra Costa Adult School and Detention Facilities.
Good morning, Gloria Bell Pastrana, Business Service Manager for Rubicon Programs.
I'm Jamie Jeanette, Community Engagement Specialist for Health, Housing, and Homeless Services.
Ivory Mitchell, CEO, Men and Women of Purpose.
Frank Hancock, Men and Women of Purpose.
Cedric Winston, Men and Women of Purpose, Reentry Manager.
Are there any others that'd like to introduce themselves? If not, prior to moving to announcements, let's set the table for decorum in this venue. Persons who wish to address the Community Advisory Board during public comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the CAB that are not on the agenda or who wish to comment may comment via Zoom or call in. Those participating on Zoom should indicate they wish to speak by using the raise your hand feature in the Zoom app. Those calling in should indicate they wish to speak by using *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute on their phone. Let's take a moment to review our purpose. Our purpose as CAB, Community Advisory Board, is to advise CCP with assessing the implementation of the county's reentry strategic plan. Some of our responsibilities, but definitely not all, include reviewing data on realignment outcomes, advising CCP on engagement strategies, offering recommendations for ongoing realignment planning, advising county agencies regarding programs for implementation in the county. Last but not least, encourage outcomes that are consistent with the county's reentry strategic plan. The floor is now open for announcements, and we'll first ask CAB members if there are any announcements. Hearing none, I do have an announcement. The Board of Supervisors proclaimed February 11th through 17th as African American Mental Health Awareness Week. Do we have any staff announcements? Do we have any announcements from the public?
Ozzy, Jamie has her hand raised.
Okay, I can't see everyone with, Jamie, yes. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I can see you, Jamie. Go
No
ahead,
worries.
Jamie.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that the Contra Costa Council on Homelessness has an opening for the youth representative seat. So we're looking for young people between the ages of 17 and 24 that have a lived experience of homelessness, that are interested in serving on the council. There is a stipend attached to that particular seat, and there's also support for transportation, like with Uber vouchers. So I'll drop the information in the chat. The deadline for the applications is next Thursday.
Thank you. No more announcements? We'll take this moment now for a positive affirmation to set the tone for this meeting from our board member, Reverend Van Hook.
Today I have a quote, thank you. I have a quote by James Baldwin. The most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. James Baldwin. Wow.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next agenda item is public comment. Is there public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board and not on this agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to item 3, approval of the record of action from the Thursday, January 11th CAB general meeting. That is attachment 1, pages 4 through 8. I'll be looking for a motion for approval and a second. But we'll first review to see if there are any corrections.
This is Nicole Green. I motion to approve the agenda. Approve the record of action from our Thursday, January 11, 2024 CAB general meeting.
This is Latanya. I second the motion.
Ariana, could you take the roll, please?
Yes, we have a motion, we have a second. We don't have any members online. So all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. All in favor of approving the record of action from Thursday, January 11, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to item 4. A debrief of the CAB annual planning activity. And this is our last meeting, which was our annual retreat. We're looking for any feedback that's relative to what your impressions were, what you liked, what you didn't like. And the reason for this question, and initially when I saw this agenda, I took it to a whole nother level and I didn't bling that. But this is the purpose. So we're looking for input, and that's because ORJ is needing to find out what things really worked, what things were cohesive, and what things didn't work. And that's the item on the floor at this time. And I would like to really hear from everyone, just to say what you liked and didn't like, or any other feedback or comments for what you feel that could have been improved. Some suggestions for next year, because we will be in the planning stages as we move forward in this calendar year. So I'll go.
I'll kick it off. I actually really enjoyed the retreat because that was my very first in-person from doing Zoom for those first couple of 3 years. So being able to interact with all you guys and have activities was really exciting. The only feedback I would give is in reference to, I think there was probably a disconnect with us having information in front of us to what individuals had on Zoom. So they were getting lost in reference to when we were saying what page we were on, and then they were trying to follow along with the agenda as we were looking at a PowerPoint. And I know it's kind of difficult because then we have Zoom and we have us in here. But outside of that, I mean, I was happy to have a binder with information to look back at. And I mean, my favorite part was really the activity of getting up with everyone and getting lost in the strings. That's my feedback. That was fun.
Okay, I'll go next. I enjoyed the binder too. I mean, compared to the Zoom meeting that, retreat that we had before, that was really helpful, because if you missed anything, because it was a busy day, but if you missed anything, then you had that. So I was really impressed with that. And I mean, it's on my bedside table.
Yeah.
I lost it in my body.
Yeah, wasn't it the one under the other button?
Yeah. But I was really impressed with that binder. I was really, and the strength was really entertaining. The only thing was, it's like, that was a long day, and I hope I didn't miss anything. Because I'm kind of looking forward to a 2-day thing, because I said, okay, I can get it in, and absorb it. And then, but we had that one day, and I understand why people who work, it's better for them to have one day, with those of us who don't have to run into the office. But it was really very helpful. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
So for me, I enjoyed the ribbon as well. It gave us a chance to interact. It gave us the opportunity to see what we had in common, and to connect on a different level. The other thing I really enjoyed was the history, the opportunity to hear like where we've come from. Going back to the gentleman who had been here like from 2018, from that time frame, and then seeing how it had changed in Crawford time, and then seeing the handoff. So for me to be able to hear the history, the change where we are now. And then there was another comment made about us like actually taking a moment to celebrate the work that had been done and how far we had come. And so to be able to, in 1 year, celebrate, to me was powerful, exciting.
I would like to echo those sentiments and really highlighting the binder as well. It was a great resource. Patricia, you did a wonderful job of facilitating everything, and making people, connecting with people, and filling in all the blanks, and making it, although it was a presentation, it was conversational as well, because people were able to ask questions and leave with an understanding. And everything LaTanya said as well. And I enjoyed the fact that the chief was here. Her presence and her commentary added a different depth to everything.
Well, I'd like to say, I enjoyed the binder as well. I'm still looking through my binder. And the retreat was very informative. It kind of gave me more of an insight on my responsibility as a CAB member. See you? I don't remember.
You weren't here if you think I was here.
I think I said when you wasn't here, but the way you looked at me, I'm like, did I get confused? Okay, I was right. You gave me a look. I'm like, I don't recall seeing. Look, I'll be busy. I'm tired.
So I really enjoyed the retreat, and the thing that I enjoyed most is that we got fed.
Yes.
I mean, we got taken care of. We got breakfast, we got coffee, we got pastries, and we got lunch of our choice. I also enjoyed the binder. I think it's a great resource to have hands-on that you can actually look through. You don't have to go through your files on your computers, like really hands-on. It has a table of content and it's just very user-friendly. I also enjoyed the part of the common threads and that game that it took me 2 days to figure out in my head what it was going to look like, because they left me in charge. They ran out. You know, I had two choices of the icebreakers, and that was not the one that I wanted. I wanted one where everybody decided which animal they were. And everybody else said, "Oh, we want to do common thread." So I spent the next couple of days figuring out what is that going to look like in the room. But anyway, it came out great. But I also like the fact that the chief was here and president had lunch with us. I also like the history. I like the fact that, you know, Harry was willing to come in and offer his expertise. But then too, we honored our members with plaques, which was a first. And we also honored our members who have transitioned, the ones that we know of. So it was all encompassing of the unit that CAB as a community represents. So I think it was a full slate of involvement. And I think that's what retreats are all about. People who are really vested in the community, the reentry populations, and everyone was here. And it was just like a great day. It was long. I'm always trying to make a disclaimer, these chairs, that 7 hours for me was tedious, and that's why I brought my food. But I enjoyed it. And I really want to thank everyone who actually showed up. And Jeffrey, you really missed something. It was great. It's coming up next year.
One last thing, the part where we were able to speak into Crawford, and then it was reciprocated, because he literally went around the room and talked about the growth in each individual person. So to be able to have someone that remembered where you started off at and where you were, and more important, a lot of where we are was a result of who he was. And so I think it was a great way to end one term and go into the next term.
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed when you guys sent that picture out. I wasn't expecting that. So to see the newsletter, we're all just cheering.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, that was really nice to be able to see that, and it honors those that left as well. So, I mean, it was a great kickoff to our new year, so.
If I can say one quick thing, all kudos in relation to the binder goes to Garyana. She's been a lot of time, we did a lot of work behind the scenes to get you all together and ready to go, and she really spearheaded that. So
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge her on that piece.
Thank you, Ariana. As I mentioned earlier, my deciphering the agenda led me down another path in reference to a debriefing, and just to bring it to the table so that we can all share in the wealth of that, those guided steps, because it's all pertinent to what we're moving forward to in 2024. And that's defining the projects that we work on collectively and individually, subcommittees, and trying to really tentatively have a general timeline for when these things should be coming to fruition, so that we can, when we move forward next week with our subcommittees, we already have an idea of what we're moving into, and if things need to be changed, that's come up in the work plan. But just some of the basic things that we're responsible for each year, excuse me, would, first of all, we'll start with our community-based organization surveys, our CBO surveys. And that's done by program and services. We have our in-custody surveys, which is also program and services. We want to take them individually for our timelines as far as well, first, we're just going to go through it and list the different assigned projects that we work on each year. We have the CBO surveys, we have the in-custody surveys, we have the ambassadors meetings, we have the AB 109 summit, we have the AB 109 retreat, and we also have the budget recommendations and engagement of community partners. The CBO surveys and the in-custody surveys are the responsibilities of program and services. And this, I'm bringing this up for clarity, because I wasn't privy to the meetings of OCEC, and the members that are currently present, you can help guide me through this process as well. The ambassadors meetings, is that something that OCEC primarily facilitates? Getting our spreadsheet and the assigned the board members and who the lead person will be, and the second person and the selection, is that something your committee would be doing?
Did we do that?
I thought, but I don't know if we put it together. I'm not sure.
So staff pushed it together, but the discussions do take place in OCEC. And so, so after that, usually a polling that goes out to all of the members about who wants to take lead and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But the discussions around the ambassador, like just planning around the ambassador meetings, yeah, they take place in OCEC.
Okay, very good. I needed to know that for clarity as well. And the AB 109 summit, which was the first ever this past year, is that also OCEC?
No, so that's one of those Crawford things.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We might have a distinction between what is actually have been on, so the summit with the other CAB member, other CABs of other jurisdictions, that was new, that was a first, as well as the in-custody survey. Those two were newer items, and so I would say you guys might want to talk about how you want to approach, if you want it to be a recurring annual thing, or if that's something you want to just visit periodically. I do know that, I think I got a word recently that Santa Clara counties, they're launching a lived experience advisory body similar to a CAB, and that they were open to hosting the next summit. So whenever that will take place, I'm not sure, but I'm certain that the contacts will be made. I do know there was a chain of emails upon Crawford's departure, so that folks can just stay in the loop with each other. Yeah. So, you know, in terms of the work planning around it, because Contra Costa hosted it this first time, I presume you all won't be hosting, and so don't have to worry about the planning and logistics around Santa Clara this year.
We want to keep it in-house this year. What does that look like? What would that look like?
Well, yeah, conversation, I think, that need to be had with those other jurisdictions, you know, those other cabs.
Also, maybe like you said, looking at the overall objective of the goal of it again, because think of the proper thing, but there was also what we discussed around the summit was there was much more to it. So pretty much coming back to the table and looking at the purpose of it and redesigning, because it was, what we happened to learn was there were not a lot of cabs built in certain counties. So we received a lot of programs. So what is it that CAB is looking for? Because I think it's a good idea for us to connect with other counties and see what other counties have, especially around our recommendations, and be able to understand what is going on in other counties. Because although we do work with individuals in Contra Costa County, they're spread out to go into other counties. So to be able to have that connection, that's one thing I think is missing within counties. They don't talk to each other. So even if the summit is, we look at it, what is our initial goal? Our first year was just to kick off, kind of learn about our CAP, but really it's about connecting to other, right? It's about learning what they have that we may not have, or what we have that they may not have, and just being able to know someone to call in another county that we, you know, you may need for somebody. It's just to have that connection, I think is good. So maybe bringing it back to the table and figuring out what do we want as a community. Your thoughts?
I think that one of the things that we've made as part of our objectives is to look to other programs, because we definitely want to see programs that are up and operational, that have success patterns, especially when dealing with citizen, because that's our ultimate goals. And we want to know what other programs are doing, what other counties are doing. I think that we didn't have a real CAB representation at the last summit, per se.
Which one, that AB 109?
AB 109 summit, yes.
Crawford and
I was there.
you there, and Scott, I mean, from OCEC, those are.
Scott was there.
Yeah,
and
Scott
Robert
is
was
from
there.
OCEC, those are two for our committee. Yeah, so, yeah.
So I would like to really expand the vision and get more clarity on moving forward. I think that because we implemented the summit, I think that before we put it out there, we should try to refine it to what the vision is for us as CAB collectively, and bring it to all of our members here to have input and a conversation around what we want it to look like, and then move forward. And so that discussion would probably happen in OCEC. Would that be appropriate?
Everybody's looking like you're gonna have Chris.
We can share.
I'm looking at him like, is that ours?
No, I'm just double checking because, you know, I come from the Crawford era. So we, you know, we were, no, it's.
I think if that's what OCEC wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
OCEC.
Yes.
And this is, I'm put a disclaimer on it. You're not gonna be alone. I'm gonna be a part of it.
Okay.
Because I definitely want to be a part of that collective conversation. So any committee that's meeting, I'm gonna be there somewhere. And so that we stay connected and we're on the same page.
Yes.
So that, you know.
Yes,
I'm gonna be there to help.
there's an honest adjustment to post Crawford era. Thank you.
True.
It's so true.
Yes.
But yes, we will.
Okay, it's ours now.
Carry on. Thank you. So the things that we've gleaned today are our actual annual projects. So the next probably thing would be for us to kind of get a bird's eye view of when these things actually come into fruition. When are our deadlines? Theoretically. For example,
The surveys.
the surveys, is that a May? I think we had a printout that had,
Yeah, the provider surveys were typically distributed around April, I believe. And then we'll have it back, you know, doing a report and presentation sometime around May, June, somewhere around there. I think the latest maybe done in July, but really around that mid-June where timeframe. The budget request, so in your slide deck, front that's in the binder. We did include a timeline for the budgeting process, so you should have that. The CAB ambassador meetings were typically kind of in alignment with kind of parallel process. Not really, there's some overlap with the results from the survey, because you guys were utilizing some of that information, also your prior recommendations to refine the talking points for the ambassador. That's usually during the summer months, into fall, your ambassador meetings. So you do have a lot of sort of work kind of that pilot back to back, or those milestones back to back, starting spring, going into summer, and the fall.
And last year's summit was in August. So
Yeah, it was.
looking at August, so summer months for the summit and the retreat.
Retreat is always usually in January. So your January month, with this unique situation with policy and budget, being the work group for the planning around the 15 million. But typically January would be the retreat month. No subcommittee meetings would take place, and then everything will resume in February. Policy and budget in January.
I think we have a pretty good, thank you for that, Patrice, an overview, the big picture. I'm sure that things are going to be tweaked. Specifically, the ambassadors, that sticks up for me because of getting those scheduled meetings with the different agencies, the different officials. It's often tedious and cumbersome. So I think maybe that's the area, that's one of the things I think probably pay closer attention to the ambassadors, because I think we still didn't have a summary of our ambassadors report for last year. Is that true?
Well, some folks actually had to do, like, I know Nicole did a lot of meetings. I want to say Scott did as well, Crawford. So there were a lot of people who actually picked up the slack quite a bit. So the distribution of work in that regard probably could be improved by membership. And I know things happen, so folks are not always able to make meetings as originally scheduled. But I would say you can start to get feedback from, especially some of the supervisor staff here. Once you with supervisors in particular, because their schedules are so busy, we want to try to schedule that out in advance and make sure you attend that. You can. And just be prepared for those meetings. Not saying department heads aren't just as busy, they are busy too, but certain supervisors, they really like hearing from cabinet members in that regard. So yeah, I think with just being on top of it, ensuring that you can make it clear your time to be there. And in the follow-up work from that, which is usually a summary of the discussion that takes place. Please note, high-level bullet points are just fine. You do not have to write a dissertation about the conversation, but just those meaningful tidbits based on what you heard. I think is going to be really relevant information for the pool.
The piece I want to add, and again, it's from the Crawford era, was I think what I was looking for was because we did so many calls, there were a lot of feedback in reference to our recommendations because the supervisors were really in line with us this year. So I know that one of the things that Crawford has mentioned was, CEC was going to go back and review those reports that we gave and kind of pull out those next steps we put on there to adjust those questions. Just based on what the supervisors gave back. So this year we can kind of adjust what our questions were. So I think I was looking for that because there were so many, not a lot of next steps, but it was just that part of our report outs that we did that we really wanted to highlight for 2024. For that, we touched on those. And again, it was really nice because they were, I could hear Crawford, I was gonna say lockstep. They were, I could hear it. They were lockstep with our recommendations for 2023 and 2024.
One of the other things that Crawford mentioned is that to make sure that we're doing what was asked of us, so that when we go back, that we can actually say that in 2023, we spoke about this, and we've actually done this, and now we're picking up to do
Wow.
the next action steps. So we would need to have a meeting to make sure like it's delegated, that we're doing what needs to be done before we actually meet with them in person.
So would that be something that they could take on, Ozzy, where they review those notes to be able to pull those action things that we agreed to in the next steps and then bring them back for us to review? Because we haven't seen that yet. We did our report out, but we haven't seen the next steps or actions of path from those comments.
Asking to tell them to do it.
Yes, I'm asking the chair, if that's something that OC, so you can volunteer.
We're gonna do it diplomatically, so we wanna stay friends.
I'm just messing with her.
We're all
If that's not, if that's something that your committee will be able to do is retrieve that information, bring it back so that we can adjust the language and the verbiage moving forward for 2024's ambassadors.
I appreciate you.
That was harmless.
Learned on never sit a chicken.
Right.
Right. You see where I'm sitting, don't you? Crawford taught you well, next to them. We'll handle it though. Yeah,
Good.
got it.
And I'm gonna help. Okay. I'm there to help.
Okay.
That's, it's open door. You can ask me anything if you need some help. I'm there to help. I understand people have schedules.
Yeah.
It's open door. I'm here to help.
I have a question. So the summaries that we did, is there a depository that has all of them, or does each, individual group has theirs? Because it would be easier for us if it was just all of them were in one spot and then we're, pulling out things. So that was my question.
Yeah, so we do have a collection of all of the previous reports that we can make sure gets included in the agenda. And then you're reminding me, we did test out, this was a request from Justin eons ago, we finally did it, which is to have a Google Drive with all of those historical docs.
Oh, okay.
For CAPS, that way you guys can have it more readily available instead of combing through agenda packets. It seemed to work. I
Yeah,
think
work.
you guys act.
It still works.
Okay, so we can make sure that all CAP members have access to that, and I'll double check to make sure. I don't know, Gary, can you remember off the top of your head, if you have the ambassador report outs in there? Anyway, we could double check and just make sure it's in there.
I will add this, the good thing is, Hartford always had a format. So, most of the documents all format the same, so there's a section that says next steps on there. It's a lot of bullets on what we took back, but you always had it separated to where at the bottom, what was those call out items or next steps on there.
Hey, very good. Robust discussion. Moving forward to 2024. Let's move on to item number 5. And that's going to be attachment number 2. We're going to discuss and finalize CAB's priorities for 2024. That's page 9.
So Ozzy, if I may, this listing of priorities were, what we were able to capture in our notes from the retreat. As you guys were discussing potential goals for the next year, things that, aside from the current work, that you all do, what are other areas you want to start, focusing in on? So that's where these priorities come from you guys' discussion.
So with these items that are listed from the discussion, what I was looking at was looking for input from the different board members that are present and from CBOs or individuals that might be in our audience. We're looking for how and what ways we can increase community engagement and input. Some of the ways that we could be creative in doing that.
Well, I know that we started working on last year was engaging the faith community more. So, last year, we started working on engaging the faith-based community more. So we're looking to continue that effort. So, this year.
Anyone else have any suggestions for increasing community engagement?
I made notes of some great ideas that were brought up by you and other members at our agenda planning. I think when you talked about updating the Facebook and tab webpage.
It was agenda plan.
Yeah. So I jotted those down. Those were some great ideas that you came up with. And the QR code.
I know, but I wanted someone else to have some great ideas. And I guess my great idea. There's a lot of ways that we can, depending on where we are in our environments, how we can influence, whether it's the conversations we're holding with our peers, our constituents, or the individuals that we're working with, how we can engage them, per se, mentioning the work that you do with that community, as far as getting back to that community. And that could engage people on a different level.
How can we get information at centers like Cal Fresh or the libraries or like the colleges that talk about it? Like to get it in certain areas where you wouldn't really hear them talk about the justice impact of population. You know how outside of Cal Fresh they have a wall with little cubby holes in there like flyers for Office of our CAP, or it talks about the different work. I know there's electronic newsletters, but how do we touch those that are not looking at their phone and or the computers? Adult schools, be able to get it out there. I think Jamie put in the comments.
Yeah. Vocational schools
Yeah,
as well.
basic needs coordinators at the community. Thank you. I need my glasses.
You mentioned basic needs coordinators at community colleges. I would say we do have, and it's in that capital drive, we do have a, general CAP flyer. So if any of you, to send that out, and if any of you want to print it out and then circulate it among your networks, you're more than welcome to do so. I want to say, Malcolm may have done that about 2 years or so ago. And then prior to COVID, prior CABs have actually done presentations out into the community, whether it's in front of different faith groups or the community groups, just sort of pulling from. Most of it though had to do with membership recruitment more than anything. But it was just to sort of highlight what CAB is all about in hopes of gaining interest in membership. And so I want to say some CAB members did presentations to other groups, community groups or coalitions that were like-minded or issues sort of overlapped. And so thinking that maybe some of those individuals would want to serve on CAB as well. So you do have precedents in those kind of arenas when you've done outreach.
And I think, who just put was that Jana that included Jamie, and what our vice chair was alluding to was something that I've been talking about probably last several months is CAB creating a QR code. And that QR code could actually be placed on flyers. It could be placed a variety of places in your social media groups or whatever. And that QR code could be inclusive of a lot of information about CAB. It could also be a space where people with lived experiences, some incentives to just even generate conversations with people who we're looking to communicate with or who we're seeking input from. just to continuously using technology where it continues to gather the information and the QR code actually, it gathers information and it stores information. I guess whatever it is that you want to glean from it. I'm not an expert, but I know that you can do a lot of things with it, and it's very transferred from one device to another, and it's a lot of capabilities, and we can actually get a lot of information and do a lot of things.
I think that's gonna be key in 2024 is having more visibility in the community. A lot of, well, I'm gonna say my focus has been in those that are incarcerated, but making sure those that have, maybe didn't, do the work inside or didn't have resources or that are out, that they know that these resources are there so that we're not only educating the community, because even if they don't want it, if their family and friends are aware of, we have this in place. And so I don't know if this is the correct verbiage, but like really partnering with like the vocational school, the adult schools to say that and to announce it and not to put the burden on just them being responsible for it, but to say we're so excited that we are partnered with and this is what it looks like so that we're covering all aspects of it. We talk about reentry, we need to look at those that are out, whether it's been 30 days, a year, 4 years, with the way that the economy is and all of the crime that we're lowering their risk by saying, let's get you the education, let's get you the job skills so that we lower your risk of going back or making a wrong choice because you're trying to provide for your family. So I think that's going to need to be key.
Right.
These are the resources that we have. Going back into the churches, because a lot of, their family members may be there. They may go to the churches and say, we want to partner with Jane Doe Church, right? We want to be a resource. We want to come in there and get involved and give back to the community.
Also looking at each district, because each district is doing, being part of that community and the different things they're doing in the districts. For example, like just throw it out there like Antioch. They're
Right.
doing so much out there, being able to present at those meetings and things that they do. And I mean, one key thing you said, as I mentioned, the college and so on, that family support. Although someone may be out for 6 months or so, it could be 10 years. We know there's no limit on how long of support that they need and how long. There really isn't an exact number of how long it takes for someone to get on their feet. There isn't. It could be 20 years and they're still going through the same issues in the process. So being able to allow families, because a lot of people don't know that we're here. Yes, we want to engage people to join on CAB. We do want more community people's on CAB, but people don't know what's here. So how do we get it out there for them to even be on calls like that, to understand, to give that feedback? That could also adjust our recommendations on what we're looking on, because yes, we are focused for those in custody, but you made an awesome point in reference to we still need to focus on those that are out as well. So I will say one of the big things for me is like when I walk in the store and I ask someone if they know what CAB is, or they know anything about, just throw out different names, they have no clue. So just making sure that people within our community know about the program because they do want to know. And the faith favors, I think they would love to know about it, because I do know for a fact that a lot of faith churches are putting their own because they don't know that it's already here.
And to even have like either a hard copy or online where these are our resources, right? So if you need the resources, here's all the resources. Like if you need free groceries, here's free groceries. They give them out on this day. If you need vouchers, if you need job training, if you need assistance with finding a job, these are the places throughout West County, and break it down into West County, East County, so that they know which resources are in each county.
So I think the question is identifying what's already there because they're there. It's just everyone gets lost in finding it. So all the information that we're saying is out there, it's just everywhere.
Right.
So how do we streamline it a tad bit better? Because like there is documents that outline the times where it is. I mean, it's just so much data in the internet land is no one knows how to find it, right? So how do we make it more user-friendly for individuals to be able to locate that information and find that data? Because it's there, it's just they don't know where to look. They don't know where to start. I hear so many families say, I need help, but I don't know where to go. Or I click on this website and it's so overwhelming, I get lost. So how do we make it easier?
It would have to be a Word document or a PDF file where it's broken down.
Right.
And so it'll make, let's just say it says housing, and then it's West County, East County, so they know exactly where to go. It's food, and it's just broken down in like main category and then by county. So when you go there, is there, and we look at it, how somebody looked at it every 3 to 6 months on an annual basis. We go in there and we ask, are you still providing these services?
Right, so it's looking at, that's there. So it's looking at what's there and is it working and is it not working? So it's there, so we have to identify what's already, because it's already out there.
We're having it in one place so that there.
It is in
Right.
one place. It
Instead
is.
of going there and making sure that they're still providing the service and then how it's actually out there so that it's friendly for the people that's coming, they're
Right.
not getting overwhelmed.
Right. So go ahead.
If I can, interject, so the CAB currently funds, what's called, the line item in your budget called connections to resources, connections to communities, something of that nature. It's a 20,000 and it's been there, gosh, probably since 2015. This is funding that goes to create the Reentry Voice newsletter, which is developed in a sort of newspaper format that gets circulated in the county jails. And it's a partnership between the Reentry Success Center and the Reentry Network at Health Road 360. So your two reentry service hubs in the county get together and develop this and have it circulated out in the jails. And I want to say in some community settings, ideally on a quarterly basis. I think it might be time to revisit that, since it's something in how do you then build upon it. We could certainly invite them to come and present on that piece, as well as their direct contact that's assembling all of that information, because they do highlight the success stories of folks and all of that too, so that it's a inspirational kind of aspirational piece for folks that are inside. But then there's like a schedule of active groups that are available and things like that. So that might be something to start to at least build upon.
I wanted to, the reason why I asked,
Have a
yeah,
table, have a table.
And FYI, we're not supposed to even have this chat thing. We got a update on our Zoom. They cut everything on, so sorry about that. We need to change that, but thank you for the comments.
and the reason why I was asking you that when I was saying, is there, because if people refer you to like the 211 and things like that. So what I mentioned at our last policy and budget meeting, something that made me extremely excited is I called San Francisco, right? And outside of 211, I don't know if you have them, I'm not trying to add more to ORJ, but they had a reentry number. Where when you call that reentry number, it had a extension for each provider. And then they had someone that actually answered and said, what did you need? And connected. It was different from regular 211. It was just solely for our population. And I've never seen that. And someone called me back like instantly, and I was able to get help, and they connected instead of me just calling this one hub with everything. It was solely focused for us. And it kind of, I just happened to Google and run across a PDF with a number. I didn't know that word, didn't know what it was. And it was just a resource number in San Francisco for just an impact. It didn't matter if it was probation and or parole. It was, and I don't know if it worked. You know, I'm not from San Francisco, but I don't have that here. So that's why I was asking that question, because we don't have it. And the information is out there, meaning it's on, meaning what you want. You have mental health, you have the AOD, it's out there, but it's not, we don't have ours in a sense. So how do we do something? I agree with you. That's what I was asking. Yes.
It may look like we're partnering with them,
Correct.
right? So if people are already going there, provide them the information where they're at. And that means we're not doing extra work. Then again, we could say, we're so excited. We're now partnering with 211. If that's where the people are going for help, because they are popular and people are saying, if you need housing, if you need this, call 211. It would be nice for them to have this information there.
Right.
So, okay, another historical fact on 211. In the past, 211, again, this same line item was actually funding 211 to like create an app and to do this whole like directory of reentry services. And the CAB at that time felt that it was very underutilized. It wasn't really, my sense that it wasn't really promoted well. And instead shifted to this idea of, well, then how can we get it directly to the people who would need these services the most? Hence then the creating these newsletters with this information directly to folks that are in custody and at the sites, potentially at sites where they will be entering. So, just to kind of give you a backstory on how that happened. The other thing too to note is that the two reentry service hubs, the way that they were designed to be that entry point, that navigation place and space for the reentry community. So one for West County, obviously, and then one serving East and Central. So we do technically have in place a mechanism to kind of streamline. It's how are we communicating it more broadly? Certainly, we would love to have feedback on how to do so, and maybe do so in partnership with the service house, but that's what it was designed to do.
Let's move on to our second item, and input is definitely welcome. How do we support non-English speaking justly impacted individuals?
I think one of the key things that we talked about was definitely bringing back that provider for another presentation, because they talked about the non-English speaking, and they talked about women, which is how we got to the bullet number 7, right? So, and I think it's looking for additional data and numbers and figuring how many are, what are the different nationalities? Because I know the one provider came and discussed Latinx, but there's more than just the Latinx that need assistance. So I guess identifying the need and the gap, and then going from there would be my feedback.
I don't know how challenging it would be if we added, I regret saying this, on the survey for the providers, provide service in any other language other than English, just so that we know, because maybe they don't know that there's a need for it. And maybe we can have a key person that would kind of navigate it for certain things. I think we talked about people that may need sign language or have, other things as well.
I think that's a great idea to include that.
I do know that ALDS has made strides to hire bilingual clinicians. That is a very difficult thing in the behavioral health field, to hire bilingual clinicians. So even on the youth side, we worked with an organization that we sought out to come into Contra Costa. They are having a really tough time hiring bilingual clinicians. Staffing is a real issue to be able to provide those sort of direct supports in more than one, or not just in.
That will be a good focal point to find out exactly if there's any data that's available at any given time. What are the various demographics, maybe from the jail, maybe from our partners who might, maybe our family might have some information about the variety of languages and cultures that they encounter.
Ozzy, Jill has her hand raised.
Yes, Jill.
I would suggest that this might be a good opportunity to partner with the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. They could certainly help as they work across many, there's 2 directors. One works across departments, the other works across community. And this might be an interesting project for them to look into and work with you on, to maybe collect that data versus just piecemealing out to individual CBOs who may or may not be touching the entire population. And the Racial Justice Oversight Body is starting up again, and all of those subcommittees and everything are starting up again as well.
Thank you, Jill. Is there any other input on item 2? I think we kind of talked about item 3 in a sense, and that would be how we could increase CAB's visibility to the public. I like the suggestion that Patrice made in reference to some of the flyers that were created, if in fact, going to different places and maybe drop them off or share them with our constituents. When we had meetings and places on, with, instead of a, what do you call it, picture book, we'll just leave our calling card on on their mezzanine paper.
Well, Reverend Van Hook and I have been discussing the faith-based group. And a lot of them have community boards.
Yes.
Okay, so once we get our flyer up and, really, we wanted to say, we talk to them and, to see if we can, just drop it off, or if they want to have a meeting, because I've been talking to my church, which is an AME church. And they're very into public, community work. So, that's another thing, is that we could get our image out to the public, not just those that are incarcerated, but their families or people who know them. So if we have it out there and they see this, they're like, okay, here's something that, we should look into.
Right.
So, yeah, he and I, we've been discussing that.
Yes, we do.
So we're just trying to figure out a way to get it. So you gotta do the bulletin and we can get it out to them.
Can we send you the list of churches? Y'all go to my church too?
Oh,
I've been telling my church about it. I just
Then let her know, no, we got the list.
Okay.
We got the list.
That's
We've got
yours to it. If it's
Thank you.
not on there,
I'm
right?
in Pittsburgh. I'm not in West, I'm in East.
No, this is all kinds.
Okay.
It's Contra Costa County.
These are my churches, congregations.
Yes.
Awesome.
I was just gonna comment, as well as for the visibility, it would be great for, like, they still have small clinics, they still have Planned Parenthoods,
That's a good.
Kaiser's, of course, but the Planned Parenthood, those kind of clinics. See the visibility there as well, I would think.
So I'm hearing that we do have a flyer.
Yes.
Or is it current, or does it need some types of revision?
We revised it not too long ago, so I would say it's probably mostly current, but, we focused on membership. So, yeah, so what we can do is send it out to you guys, and give us feedback on what you'd like to see, or, edits or adjustments to be made, if you felt like maybe one flyer specific for membership recruitment, and then one that's specific to, know who we are as CAB or whatever. I mean, they kind of serve the same purpose, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it does highlight one.
So that project is specifically OCEC's baby? Are you OCEC?
Yes, yes.
But I can't
You
figure it
keep
out.
looking at every time you bring it up, it's like, yes, okay. Yes, yes. Oh, you want us to spearhead it, that you're saying,
Is that where it would fall? In that sub OCEC? The approval, after we get to see the flyer, the final additions, corrections, or whatever, would be the responsibility of OCEC.
And if that's what OCEC wishes to do.
Is it
Is it-
something that you would like to put
do
on
they-
your?
Yeah, we can, well, we'll get the flyer and we can, we'll work it, and then we should bring it back to the group so that we're spearheading it, but it is a group effort, is what we're trying to say.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item, which is some of the same things we've discussed, is how we're making more information available, more information accessible to the public. I first would like to commend Garyana for her work on CAB's webpage. I noticed that it's been updated and revised, and I'd like to thank you so much for your efforts. So in answering that question, are there any suggestions or creative ideas of what we can do? As far as, I know we've talked about making things accessible to the public, but would we create another web page? Would we create another social media site? Would that be something that we would invest in moving forward? And what would that entail? I think our last discussion around social media was brought up, the Brown Act infringement. And I thought, I think we should.
Yeah, I would say, so our department just hired a new, departmental, trying to remember the exact title, departmental communications and media relations coordinator, a long name. His name is Isaiah Thompson. He is really looking to, increase even probation's, social media presence. So I think, by way of us, we can certainly post things there, to highlight CAB's work. If desired, at least that would be already a space or a mechanism to do so.
And thing would then be, what types of things would be willing to post and what type of timeframes, and would it be consistent? Because if you're going to develop information and following and people to stay interactive, it has to have something ongoing, not just to post 3 or 4 months later, but something that's consistent. That's something that we could be able to look at. And who would do that? Who would be maintaining that?
Well, I think you would require the CAB to kind of plan out what you really want to see and what that would look like. And then we can always share it with our media relations coordinator to see what's possible. But I think you guys will have to develop the ideas first about.
Is there any discussion?
Well, I mean, I don't want us to do more work. I think if there's a way that the social media person can just put like, these posts have been approved, and we just copy and paste, and it directs them back to the main website. Like, the website has been, updated. These are the new changes. For more information, click the link, right? But it's not us sending, we're just simply copying and pasting and then bringing them back to the actual website. And if they're giving us the verbiage, then it's already met the criteria. So you don't have one person saying one thing, somebody else saying something else. You shouldn't have said it this way. You should have said it this way. And all we did was copy and paste it and then put the link there for them to go back. And I don't know if we can do that, but it just seems like the easiest way to do it.
Whatever content ideas you have, if it's just something about, like, for example, our e-newsletter, we typically try to still include the sort of a static entry about CAB, what do I want to say, membership, right? That membership, applications are accepted on a rolling basis, right? And that gets sent out to folks. We could do this essentially the same thing periodically through the social media posts. But there are other, but that's only, again, membership improvement. If there's other specific content, ideas, or pieces that you would like to see get lifted up, then you all can determine what those are. Let us know, and we can shape it and frame it, so that it's easily digestible and what have you. As a social media post.
I think that what I could envision, it would be good to have that interactive piece in there, because one of the things that has been a goal is to have interactions with justice impact population, because we want to inevitably groom people to know that there's hope beyond their incarceration, and there's other things that they can do. There's pathways to get back to their community, and working with CAB is one of those. And we can have life's experiences and interactions there. We can even have incentives for people just to keep that momentum and building and fostering, relationships with the community that we represent, so that we're not alien. We are people, individuals do know us, and not just individuals who are working for the county or other offices, but people within the communities, like individuals of those justice impacted, their families, knowing that there are people who are working behind the scenes, wanting to make sure that there are services within their communities for those who are justice impacted and who are trying to reintegrate back to a normal, whatever normal looks like, society or community. And that's our purpose, and that's what we're supposed to be here for. Is there any other input? If not, any other input on our image, more information to make it make information more accessible to the public? The next item is to increase coordination and communication with county agencies and PPO providers.
I'll give an update from a policy and budget standpoint. We will continue to work on it from a county agency standpoint by adding it to one of our work groups to continue that engagement. I think it's important that not only do we continue in reference to looking at the CBOs, which programs and services is doing, that we continue that connection with our county agencies, because one thing we heard from surveys is that communication. And I'm excited to see not only with the connection with our CBOs, but actually learning more of what's going on in the county and that advocacy for our just impacted population so that they are connected to the other services that are going on within the community and having that voice. Because not only do our CBOs also have a perfect lens on how the work is being done, but now being at those tables to really talk about it and coordinate with those community partners. So one of our ways that we want to do it is to continue to provide that part of it and then continue to work hand in hand with programs and services to share that data for 2024.
Any other information to be added to that? How are we talking and moving with our community-based organizations? Are we feeling that we're working on the same agendas, that we're all working together cohesively for the same goals? Are we massaging relationships within our communities? As you know, we meet here, different organizations that work together. Are we fostering those relationships and also bringing Kathy into that conversation, into that narrative? I mean, it's just food for thought. And if we're not, maybe we think about ways that we can incorporate that and invest in that. I know that there were so many of us at the PPC meeting Monday, and representing and being there and being a part of that. And that speaks volume for us, that we are very vested in this community and that we show up. And showing up is is the biggest part, just, showing up. And I want to thank you all for being there and being a part of that. Moving to the final item, how can we engage women in custody? One of the things that left a not so good feeling for me was the surveys, the in-custody surveys. And I want to once again thank LaTanya for bringing that idea to the table and to fruition. That's commendable. Your leadership skills are just receiving. And I want to thank you. And, it was just not a good feeling for only one woman to have been responded. And I tell everyone I have a lot of implicit biases, and I haven't been incarcerated. I know the trickle-down effect, and I'm thinking, is this patriarchal society? Why are just women isolated? What is it that we can do to try to have the dialogue to find out why? Is it that we need to readjust our verbiage maybe separately for women, and focusing primarily on the women's need to be interested in the survey? Maybe it was not structured in a manner that was receptive to them, or maybe the distribution part, whatever piece that was. But I know that we have gotten the survey back and we're waiting for the data to be deciphered and a report. And the best thing is it was successful. Whatever the data showed, however how many, it was successful for a first time. And I know that moving forward, we'll do a much better job, because we're looking at it today and your committee is charged with, really, investigating and finding out what we can do better. So the question is, how can we engage women in custody? And I know that you and Rena work inside with women, correct?
In a class, so I don't go in, I don't be with them individually. I facilitate a class, with a group of them in the fourth Monday. But I think, the emphasis do need to be put on this, because this goes back to the providers, right? And making sure that the needs of those that are incarcerated are being met. So not just for the woman, but for the man, and to have that information, because I feel like that information will determine what we need from the providers, and to make sure that their needs are being met, and then to begin to look at the providers to see, what county, and is it things overlapping or things falling through the cracks. So I think it starts with this, so that we can have a better picture of everything else that it touches. So I don't know the details of how it was distributed and why only one was completed. And then to even look at the numbers of the breakdown of just not West County, but the other jails as well, to make sure that we can increase those numbers so that we can.
More input?
Don't we already have like some providers that are, engaging with the women?
Yes.
Okay. It's just mainly making sure they, engage with them on a regular basis. I'll add to it. I think, I definitely piggyback. I know one of the focuses on, and program and services doing an awesome job is looking at what we already have. And I think it's also, I think we identified within the not just women across the whole board, not just in custody, but across the board. We do understand that there's a gap of services across the board. So we're going back to that initial conversation, is identifying what those gaps are, like we've talked about. Going back to really getting out in our community. And there are a lot of programs and services that are within Contra Costa County that we don't even know about, that we haven't tapped into. We have existing ones that we need to look at, where they funded, what are they doing, and what are they covering, to identify those gaps, and also looking at those that are out there that we haven't touched, invite more people in. And doing that, going back to the survey, is, I don't know that part either. So it's really, identifying where that part broke down at, and then just continuing the work that's already being done from a CBO perspective, as well as a county agency perspective, is looking at what's there, what are we missing, what needs to be done, and then identifying those gaps. Do we have programs and services right now that can facilitate those gaps, or is there certain programs that can take on things to help with those gaps? If not, a big thing for me this year is, how do we engage those? There are a lot of programs that are not being utilized too, that we don't know, that are from for small mom and pops that some current CBOs may be using, right? So how do we know what's really going on within the county and identifying when things are being done? So that goes back to y'all wonderful work that you started in 2023 and continuing that in 2024. And so I look for the outcome of that, because it started last year, right? So it's really just continuing what you all are doing. And I think why we have women here is because we don't want to forget that. We don't want it to get lost in all the work that we've done. But I think it's just continuing the work that programs and services is doing. I think our spreadsheet is going to be really important at the end of the year, because it's going to have the CBOs plus the county agencies. So I think continuing what our idea is in reference to digging deep and putting that data together and presenting that to CAB. I'm trying to shoot myself in the foot with this, and giving us a timeline to have it done by the end of the year, because we started this Crawford started this at the end of 2023. So I think taking on 2024 and really digging deep and putting that all together, and then being able to come back at the end of the year when we're doing our recommendations, because we kind of work hand in hand with each other, and taking that data and looking at our recommendations and really figuring out what that looks like. I think that's the overall goal. I think I summarized it.
Just a quick concept.
Okay, very good. Moving on to the next item on our agenda
If I can give a quick update, just before cap, part of the search. So you actually will hear at the next program and services meeting, which is next week, 15th or 16th of those days. You will hear, we are ready to share the survey results. And so we'll have a presentation on that. We've also invited, RDA was the consulting group, with County Health Services. They also conducted a consumer feedback project where they did not do a survey in the jails. What they did was they hosted focus groups. And I do believe that there were some women who participated in that, given some of the comments that were shared around County Health Services. So those mostly focused around the rollout of CalA and Medi-Cal applications. There were other responses related to the needs of certain services while in custody and in connection out of custody. So we'll have both of those ready to go to that meeting, so you can kind of hear a hodgepodge, if you will, of feedback from those that are in custody. And the two methods are different. You have focus groups and surveys. There were definitely some similar themes there. So look out for that. That's a teaser on that one.
Right.
And then we also had outreach from a organization called the Gems Project that would like to come. They heard about you guys' work and they're concerned around women engagement, so in custody. And so they would like an opportunity to present to you all on sort of their model that they have done out in Santa Cruz, I believe, and just the general sense of what usually takes place when we're talking about engaging women that are incarcerated. So there's definitely been opportunities sooner than later on some of these.
The Jimmer project, they're gonna come to full cap, right?
I think so. I can double check.
Okay.
Oh, Gary was shaking her head. So yes.
Okay, so next we'll review and discuss reports from CAB subcommittees and external meetings. Any report outs from Board of Supervisors?
I can do that. I'm driving and I don't have my notes in front of me, but I did look through and off the top of my head, the Board of Supervisors heard the quarterly sheriff's oversight report, and you already mentioned about the mental health week, Ozzy, that they just celebrated last week. And then they also received a report on the inmate welfare fund, which is always interesting report that's given to the board yearly. And it was just a consent item. And I think that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Lots of contracts going through at this point in time. So for lots of services. So that's always exciting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jill. Do we have a report from CCP?
Not CCP. CCP has not met yet this year, but I do. Would you like me to do an update on PPC and you guys can fill in? Okay, so the Public Protections Committee met on February 5th, and I know on the agenda we have that posted. The next PPC meeting will be March 4th or 5th. The first Monday of every month, where PPC will meet from 1 to 2:30. All are welcome to attend their virtual, their virtual meetings. So for this meeting, the PPC considered CCP's recommended budget for AB 109 budget for fiscal year 24-25, so the next fiscal year. And also an update related to CAB's planning on the one-time 15 million allocation was made. The two supervisors who sit on this committee, Chair Supervisor Joya, and then Supervisor Glover. Supervisor Joya namely had some questions related to some of the program modifications that were stated in the respective budget requests. If you can recall, during CCP meeting in December, CCP decided to move forward with only the baseline request and not to hold off on funding program modifications that they may be considered as part of CAP's planning around the 15 million if those modifications fell within the category of, or fell within those 4 priority areas that CAP has set. So in that discussion, we definitely had both during the meeting, and then I would like to share that outside of the meeting, we have representatives from Detention Health, Public Defender's Office, as well as the District Attorney's Office, all requesting to present at a future CAB meeting on their program modification. Detention Health is requesting a modification related to funding for medication for opioid treatment in custody. Public Defender's Office is looking to hire staff, I believe it's a client services special manager to oversee their client services piece of their work in their social work unit, I believe. And then the District Attorney's Office is looking to expand their neighborhood restorative partnership, so that would also be an increase in staffing. There were obviously other modifications. Obviously, there were the 2 under CAB, the one-time capital expenses for the Success Center, and then the pass-through from Health Right 360 Reentry Network to Center Force for SLE housing for some of their women's participants. So all to say, there's definitely appetite for county agencies specifically to present to CAB on those modifications. So we can incorporate that into the planning as needed. But I will say a direct request was made by those 3 I stated for the March 15th meeting, which is focused on your pre and post release engagement. And that's and then the meeting schedule was determined first Monday of every month from 1 to 2:30. That was it. Thank you, Patrice.
Ozzy, Jill has her hand raised.
Yes, Jill.
I forgot one more thing that was approved by the Board of Supervisors, and that is the program manager position for ORJ that Patrice has so patiently been waiting for.
Yay! Thank you, Jill. Yes, we've been dying for that position. It's finally been created.
Fantastic, good news. Moving to our next report out. Is there anything from the ambassadors meeting? Nothing? Report out from Outreach and Community Engagement Subcommittee. Report from the Program and Services Subcommittee, Attachment 3.
I'm gonna go over some of the highlights really quick. So we reviewed the AAC 109 Community Program Service Grid to attempt to identify gaps in services. Requested that ORJ provides more information on pre and post-release services, more information on actual services that are being provided, more information regarding referrals and referral process, information in regards to what services are offered in-house versus what services are offered out in agency referrals. Number of individuals engaged in service, if services are provided in multiple language, and more details in regards to housing services. For example, if housing is being provided for an individual versus an individual and their family, where is the houses being provided? And then we had also their hours of operation, and then we discussed questions for CBO providers that came from the Policy and Budget Subcommittee. And we're going to make some edits. We've already made the edits and submitted it. And so our next meeting is on next Thursday, which is the 15th.
Thank you. Moving on to report from the Policy and Budget Subcommittee, Attachment 4, pages 12 through 14.
So I'm going to give an update for December, and then we also had a special meeting in January that I'll give a quick update for. So in December, I'm very excited to say that we did have our first work group. So we completed our work group with housing. I definitely want to say thank you to Louds, and we had H3, and we had a Hope Solutions, and we got a lot of information about the different housing. We appreciate their feedback. In reference to their current work, they gave us information about the gaps of services. They also provided outlines about their funding budget. It was just a wealth of information that we were able to take back as a committee. So we discussed an update, of course, from the CCP meeting on December 1st. Patricia gave a awesome recap from the PPC, but also some of the things that she highlighted was discussed in December regarding the other organizations that are going to be coming to the table for us to look at their budget requests with the funding. We definitely discussed our schedule for our future AB 109 access funds, which I'll talk about in a minute. Our next steps from December, which we had to push back, and I'll talk in a second, was our host for our behavioral health meeting, sending feedback from that workshop, and then a recap of meeting from the housing workshop. You may have heard about the great things that's being done with reference to CalAIM and in reference to behavioral health. There are a lot of RFPs going on. There's so much that's being done through behavioral health, H3 just within the county. So behavioral health did have to push back their workshop so that they can actually come back and look at the funding that's actually already being done within the county. So they're not asking for something from us that they don't need. So that actually allowed for us, policy and budget, to come together for a special meeting in January and actually talk about the housing work group that was conducted, so that we can kind of get all of our ideas out, so that we're not going all the way to March or April and forget. So I actually was very thankful that we were provided with that special meeting to actually hash out our ideas and our thoughts. And we were able to do that. So behavioral health will, she scared me. Behavioral health will actually come into our February 16th meeting with the employment. So it's going to be a very, not intense, it's going to be a full meeting because we're going to be focusing on two things: behavioral health, to get an idea of what their, not their ask, because no one's going to ask, but their feedback of services or gaps, and just give us information. And then we're going to also do the employment workshop on the 16th. So that is an update from there. And I did give an update from our special meeting. Any feedback you want to add, Jeff? Oh, okay. Oh, and sorry. And then on page 14 is a breakdown of our schedule. So we did update. The January 19th meeting was canceled. Our special meeting was on January 30th, where we debriefed the housing discussion as committee, subcommittee members. So we did have a discussion of an idea of what we do want to eventually present to full cab once it's all done. And then the rest of it kind of breaks it down of what our next steps are going to actually be, and the presenters that are going to come. If any of you guys feel like we missed any providers, just let us know. I know the 16th that's already went out, so it's too late.
Yeah, so we'll be posting that agenda on Friday. We did, I believe, we got mostly all the presenters submitted their responses. So that was done, but March 15th might be another doozy if we have all of those other organizations coming in to present. So
Right.
You all might want to think about whether or not it's going to be another special meeting or extend the time for the 15th. That's a lot of different agencies.
We may need to extend it because we have agencies actually coming in, so it's going to have to go longer than 1 o'clock. Yeah.
So as long as we have quorum in the room, Jeffrey.
Pretty much.
We can make it, we can.
Okay.
We'll facilitate with you guys offline about scheduling.
Any questions for policy and budget about what's been taking place? And I keep going for Raina. I'll keep going. Raina's back up, and I'm also excited because I took the reentry seat for a council of homeless, so I can bring this information back to y'all. Gotta have a reentry advocate so everywhere. So I won't read her words verbatim. I mean, I'm very excited about what the Council of Homeless is doing, so I'll kind of go over some of her bullets. I will say one of the key things that I'm excited about, not only at the Council of Homeless, but just joining the H3 like provider meetings. They are really lifting up the voice for the reentry and keeping that, looking at different creative ways to look at the data. And I'm just excited to just see that, because I know that they, the focus is on the homeless, but not just reentry, but they're looking at the youth and different areas, and they're really honing on those sub-demographic levels and really trying to stick to what HUD is asking for. And Jamie, you can jump anywhere if I miss anything, but they're really, I'm really learning a lot in reference to what H3 has to focus on from a HUD perspective, but also not forget about different sub-levels. So just knowing that seeing reentry on their agenda is the WG, the new program, just impacting on their agendas is amazing to me. So the January meeting, some key things is the NOFO work group updates we're giving. They voted on some of the members on the boards. I was nominated, so I was excited about that. They talked about the point of count. Me and Ozzy participated and Raina also joined. We were up on 0:30, so we represented for CAB, woo-hoo, and got up there to participate in the point in time count. It was fun, even though we were tired, but it was fun to be able to do it from a volunteer standpoint. At the meeting, they discussed the homeless person's memorial event, which is amazing. So give more information on that when it comes up the next year. And I love the fact that Raina put the YouTube on there. If you ever get a chance to go back, you want to go look at the video. There's going to be some awesome things that's coming up in reference to the encampment resolution funding. As I mentioned, there are a lot of funding opportunities that are coming up. So if you don't get a chance to join the Council of Home, it's a good thing to do because they are, from our perspective, from the CAB, they are talking about the just and impacted population and do need that voice there. Because they are asking for information, so she captured a lot. They gave some updates on open requests, as I mentioned, for the RFPs and RFQs. I know one of the RFPs was in reference to H3 with Measure X for innovative, and I think I'm saying it's innovative and something else. And then I know that there was another RFP from behavioral health looking for like different vendor pools. So there's a lot actually going on. The home key update, I got pushed forward of 16 million for I'm gonna say it incorrect, El Puerto Place in San Pablo. So that was approved and there was discussion about 2024 compliance monitoring. And then jumping to the February one, same thing, it was update. So they gave the results from the point in time count, gave funding updates, and discussed approved for Q4 Council of Homeless recommendations, and had a presentation from community feedback and sessions around homeless housing and assistance prevention HHAP grant. So you see me smiling because I'm excited because I love to learn about other programs within the county, as I mentioned before, because not only do we focus on our justice impacted population for our CBO, but in order to serve them, we have to know what else is going on within the county to be able to connect them to the proper services based on their barriers. And
Thank you for that.
I'm sorry, the next meeting is March 7th, 2024 from 1 and 3 o'clock, from 1 to 3.
Great, thank you. So we're out of time, but I'd like to, before we adjourn, take a look at our next steps.
Ozzy, I have some next steps if you would like me to share.
Thank you.
Some next steps for the ORJ, make sure everyone has access to the Google Drive, send OCEC the ambassador meetings report, and send flyers to the CAB for their input. Next steps for the CAB members is review and discuss ambassador reports meeting. That's going to be taking place in OCEC, and then bring it back to the full CAB. Review reentry voices as a start on how to engage the reentry population and justice impacted population. And OCEC will work on flyer and finalize the flyer and bring it back to the full CAB. Is there anything that I missed?
So for the next full body meeting, then we'll have the general projects slated to present. And then if there are any other items you guys want to discuss during our agenda planning meeting schedule, chairs.
Is that the last Monday, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for those next steps. And are there any other observations or things that we need to include prior to adjourning? If not, as we adjourn, Let's carry with us the belief that every individual deserves a second chance. And let's continue to work tirelessly to build a more inclusive and supportive community for all. And as Crawford would say, where an idea can change the world. We're going to adjourn until our next meeting, which will be March 14th, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Thank you all.